The News Day continues here on One News Now. I'm Diego Castro, bringing you the biggest headlines from around the world. China's foreign minister blames the U.S. for rising tensions between Washington and Beijing, warning that if the U.S. does not change its path, there will be, quote, conflict and confrontation. Speaking to reporters, China's foreign minister Qin Gang says the U.S. has been engaged in suppression and containment of China rather than fair or rule-based competition. Relations between the two superpowers have been tense for years over a number of issues, including Taiwan, trade, and the war in Ukraine. But tensions worsened after the controversy involving a balloon downed last month, which the U.S. said was a Chinese spying device.
美方声称要经营中国。
The United States claims to be competing to win against China rather than seeking conflict. But in fact, the United States' so-called competition is total containment and suppression, a zero-sum game in which you die and I live. If the United States does not hit the brakes but continues to speed down the wrong path, no amount of guardrails can prevent derailing or a crash, and there will surely be conflict and confrontation.
Qin adds that Taiwan is the first red line that the U.S. must not cross. He notes the resolution of the Taiwan issue is a matter for the Chinese people, and no other country has the right to interfere.
核心利益中的核心。
The Taiwan question is the core of the core interests of China, the bedrock of the political foundation of China-U.S. relations, and the first red line that must not be crossed in China-U.S. relations. The United States has an unshakable responsibility for causing the Taiwan question. The reason we are talking to the United States about the Taiwan issue is to ask the United States not to interfere in China's internal affairs.
In the same press conference, Qin hailed China's relations with Russia, noting that Beijing must advance its relations with Moscow as the world becomes more turbulent. China, which has refused to name Russia as the aggressor in the Ukraine conflict, has often criticized the U.S. for bullying other countries with unilateral sanctions.
中俄携手
When Russia and China work together, there is an impetus for the multipolarization of the world and the democratization of the international relations. Global strategic balance and stability will be more guaranteed. The more turbulent the world is, the more Sino-Russian relations must move steadily forward.
North Korea is also accusing the U.S. of intentionally aggravating relations as Washington flies in joint military drills with South Korea. The U.S. and South Korea training on Monday involved a nuclear-capable B-52 bomber flying over the Korean peninsula. The drills also come ahead of more than 10 days of large-scale military exercises announced by Washington and Seoul. The influential sister of North Korea's leader warned that her country is ready to take, quote, quick and overwhelming action. Though no planned actions were detailed in the statement, North Korea has often test-launched missiles in response to drills between the countries. We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now World. I'm Diego Castro. Canada is set to investigate China's suspected interference in the 2021 election. Several news sites have reported that China worked to defeat conservative politicians considered unfriendly to them. This prompted the opposition to call for an investigation into Beijing's alleged meddling. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has asked Parliament National Security Committee to launch a probe. He also plans to appoint an independent special rapporteur for the public inquiry. The U.S. Federal Reserve could hike interest rates higher than previously projected. Fed Chair Jerome Powell said this is likely if data were to indicate that faster tightening is warranted. With this, the Fed may increase its benchmark rate by a half percentage point later this month. The central bank earlier raised its key rate by just a quarter point, downshifting after a half-point rise. Japan's space agency destroys a new H-3 rocket immediately after its launch due to engine failure. According to the agency, the rocket was able to take off. However, as the second stage separated as designed, the ignition for it failed. The agency apologized and sent a command to destroy the rocket about 14 minutes after liftoff, as there was no hope for it to complete its mission. The H-3's failure was a setback for Japan's space program and disappointment for space fans rooting for the retrial. This comes after 3 weeks after an aborted launch due to a separate glitch. The death toll from the stampede at a rap concert in Rochester, New York has rose to 2. More details on that and other headlines in the entertainment front in this report by the Associated Press. And those are the top world headlines of the hour. Join us again at 9 a.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. Coming right up is Agenda at 8 a.m. I'm Diego Castro. We are One News. All sides, all the time.